Hi guys, it is the first week of June and so much has changed since the last garden tour. The rain has diminished finally, we've had a lot of sun, we've got warm temperatures, and the garden has just gone crazy. The growth has exploded. It's going beautiful. We have tomatoes, peppers set, and we are going to take a garden tour and take a look at that. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. If you're new here, my name is Kim. I thank you for joining me, and let's get started. This is the center part of the garden where most of the vegetables are. And as you can see, things are doing really, really well. I have already harvested the garlic, and that will be in a different video. And I'll share with you how to process and cure that so that it'll last longer. In the interim, in those beds, I have planted green beans, including Jade, Contender, and Tender Sweet, summer squash, including yellow and zucchini, pink banana, winter squash, and cucumbers. And I've had a lot of problems growing cucumbers last year and even this year. So what I am doing for that and the summer squash, which I've also had issues with, is just planting every week or two new seeds. Anywhere that the space opens up in the garden, I'm planting new seeds. I've also started some drying beans in one of the garlic beds. I've not grown those before. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. It'll be a nice experiment. So throughout the tour, you'll also notice that I've planted a variety of different flowers within the beds as well as around the beds. The reason for that is one is gorgeous, but also to bring in more pollinators and beneficial insects to take care of the bad bugs. Because I have seen squash vine borer, which I won, I think. I took care of it. It was sitting on my Connecticut field pumpkin. I'm like, oh, no, you don't. So I took care of that one, and I'm going to clean off the stem to make sure there's no eggs on there. And then you'll just see, again, there's flowers throughout, and it's just to draw in the really good pollinators. So I have onions planted in 5 or 6 beds throughout the garden, and they're in different stages at this point. Most are fairly well advanced, but you'll see in this bed, onions, shallots in the center, and then another set of onions on that side. These are further behind, and they will need to take a little bit longer to mature. We do have 14-hour days through the end of July, so we have a full 2 months now, just about, for these to bulb up and to get bigger. So in this bed, we have potatoes that I planted in January. I'm actually kind of surprised that they haven't completely died back yet. I think the March 20th planting is actually much further along and going to be harvested within the next week or so, but we'll see. In the January planting, I do have a variety of potatoes. Some fall into the early season, mid-season, and late season, so they're all mixed up. We have Yukon Gold, Rose Gold, Red Norland, German Butterball, Russet, and Purple Viking. Those are in this bed and one further down. In this bed to the right, we have some of our more advanced intermediate day onions. The empty side is where the garlic had been, and now I've got green beans and summer squash in. You'll also notice that I've cut off the top of the onion leaves. Following advice from Luke at My Gardener, a video he did recently, he said you really need to keep the weight off the top of the onion. As these get taller, they get heavier, and they can force the onion to prematurely bend over. So by keeping these cut shorter, you allow them to live longer, therefore possibly, hopefully getting bigger. So following that advice, hopefully it works. I have heard so many people say don't cut your onions once you plant them outside. So we're taking a chance, following his advice, and we'll see how this goes. And hopefully we will have some beautiful onions. To the left of that bed, we have another one that previously had garlic. This bed still has 2 cauliflower, one there and one there. I did have to go buy cauliflower starts at the store because the cauliflower seed I got was not cauliflower. I was very disappointed in that. It was something else, and was very frustrated with that. So I did have to buy some cauliflower. It has not even begun to start to head up. I have sprayed with BT and diatomaceous earth to try to control the cabbage loopers and the slugs. We've had so much rain this year that we've just been inundated with slugs. So we're doing some maintenance on that, try to get those to keep growing. In the next bed, we have some more cauliflower here. Some more of our onions. They're also much more advanced. And our January planting. These are still actually blooming, so we just have some of the later season potatoes in here. So I think towards the center of the area, back here, bring it around. All right, so you'll see some of the ones towards the center there are actually dying back faster. So I will probably be pulling those here very soon. And again, these onions are looking really good so far. To the left of that bed, we have our first string trellised tomato. There are 10 tomato plants in there, along with 5 basil plants in between. They are doing really well. They're probably about 3 feet tall. We already have tomatoes set, and they're just going beautifully. So this is the Moscovich tomato. I've never grown it before, but it is probably the biggest one besides the Quadro out here. And we've already got some fruit set on it. And we've got more flowers and more fruit. And one thing you can do, if you over here a little bit, if you have flowers, they will naturally, they are self-fertilizing. So between the wind and pollinators, usually it takes care of it. But if you want to make absolute sure that you have a really great fruit set, what you can do is just come through each night, shake the flowers. That allows the pollen to move around in the flower, and you're going to get really good fruit set ratio. And that's what I've been doing, and we've got just crazy amounts of tomatoes actually set already. So we have in this last of the front beds, towards closest to the house, we have our onions, which they are getting bulbing up. It's so exciting. Last year I didn't get much of anything. I had little onions about that big. For what I did get. So this is already way ahead of where I was. So this is one of the things that Luke was talking about. When your leaves start to bend, it can cause stress on the plant. So I'm just going to break that off and just drop it. So we'll see if that goes. Like I said, it's been about 4 days since I trimmed them, and they are still doing beautifully. These are starting to close up. And we've had a little bit of rain, but I don't see any issues with it at all so far. On the other side of this bed, we have Jade green beans. I did have issues with my Walla Walla onions, especially. I think I smothered them with a mulch. So next year I'm going to plant them. I'm not going to mulch for a couple of weeks, give them a little time to set, because those mostly died out. So I replaced them with Jade green beans, which are finally flowering. Hopefully we'll have some green beans soon. The bean flowers are just absolutely beautiful. Just love that. But they're full of. It took them a while to get this big. They didn't seem to want to do that. But now that the heat has set on with a combination of all the rain, we've got some really good flowers going on here. Plants are great size. So we should have green beans soon. So this is our first string trellis bed. And behind that, we have our sweet pepper bed. Have a little maintenance to do in here. It looks like I've got a mushroom farm. So go ahead and pull those out. We do have some cosmos started over here. So these have tons of flowers and also quite a bit of fruit set already. So this one has 3 nice peppers on it, and it is absolutely loaded with flowers. So in this bed, we do have several different bell peppers: purple bell, coral bell, keystone bell, maybe one king of the north bell. It is the only seed, if that is truly what it is, it's the only seed that germinated from the pack I got from Azure Standard. I was extremely disappointed with that. Probably will not be buying seed from there again. We got the Corno de Toro red and yellow. A bunch of shishito, a bunch of Advarsky, and yeah, we're just going to have a whole lot of peppers. We're doing really, really well. For this season, I am far ahead both with the sweet peppers and the hot peppers from where I was last year. I did get a decent harvest last year. It was just much later, and I think we will have peppers to pick here in June. So that's awesome. So switch over to this bed behind it, and we have our second trellised Indeterminate tomatoes. Pulled back a little bit so you can see the entire trellis system. If you are interested in setting up something like this, I did a video on it on how I put it together. It's really neat because it's actually something that you can take apart store for the winter, and then bring it back out next spring, which is what I did here. We have a mixed bag of carrots, 3 different kind of green beans. We have Jade, Maxi Bell Haricot, and Roma 2 beans. Also have a little bit of okra tucked in here along the back edge. So these carrots are actually very interesting. They actually wintered over from last year, which I know you can do that. I did actually pull some of them and use them already this season. I decided to leave this portion here where I did remove them down the center of this bed. I've added zucchini and yellow squash. So you can see the yellow squash is over there and the zucchini is over here. So once that gets a little bit bigger, I will go ahead and thin that out a little bit. But as I've said, I had a terrible time with zucchini last year. I know everyone always talks about how you're chucking it at your neighbor's porch and trying to get everyone to take it. I barely got a handful of zucchini or yellow squash last year. So at this point, I am succession planting it and tucking it in anywhere that there is an opening as things are harvested and pulled out. Just every couple of weeks, I'm just adding more squash. So I think this is the second, and I started the third here this past weekend of my squash. So back to these carrots. They did overwinter last year. I am letting them go to flower. They have an umbrella-shaped flower, which you can see this probably better. This one here, it's gorgeous. But it's really pulls in a lot of the really good beneficial bugs. I think like lacewings and some of the other ones are really are good predatory bugs. Love this shape of flower. So I'm going to go ahead and let this section just go to seed, go to flower, and then go to seed. So, and it's pretty. It's going to make a really pretty section back here in the back corner of the garden. Behind that bed, we have a miniature nectarine tree, which actually doesn't look as bad as it did. I've been having trouble with my fruit trees. I've got a peach tree over here, which is pretty sad looking, and another peach tree over there on the far side of, or near the trellis. And they're having problems with fungus, probably peach curl, leaf curl. I'll be spraying those today with some copper fungicide. So here we have a bait alpha cucumber back here. It does have a cucumber on it. The plant itself is not looking overly healthy, but it's still growing. And I have replanted some more seeds in there. In the front here, we have a really interesting experiment that I'm going to let go. Over in the next bed, where the taller 17-inch bed is now with the other tomatoes, I had this lettuce plant. Whoops. I had this lettuce planted last spring. It bolted, I let it go to seed, and last fall, in the old 8-inch bed that was over there, started growing. So, okay. It didn't really get big enough to fully come to harvest. So I just left it, figured over the winter we had near 0-degree temperatures. It would just die out. I would start over in the spring. Darned if this stuff didn't come back this spring, and it filled half of this 6.5 by 3.5 foot bed. So it was the shorter one, but it filled half of this bed. It was crazy. So it overwintered, and it came back. It grew like crazy. I've harvested a whole lot. I wanted to replace this with the 17-inch bed, and I needed to get the tomatoes in, so I had to pull the lettuce. So I chucked it over here with the intent of coming back and picking it up later. I got distracted. Darn if that stuff didn't just root in. So it is now bolting. I'm going to let it go. I have to be careful that it doesn't become a weed because it is insanely prolific. But hey, if it wants to reseed itself and give me lettuce perpetually, I'm all in for that. Pretty cool though. Freckles remain lettuce. I got the seed from my gardener in the end of 22 or late fall 22. So you will notice also that we have some dahlias. We do have dahlias throughout throughout the garden. They're all over the place. This third bed of tomatoes is also mostly indeterminate. So there's one determinate tomato here. It's a black sea tomato. The rest are indeterminate. I found a set of 4 of these 6.7-foot obelisk trellises. I think they were like $69 when I got them. So I went ahead and got these for the indeterminate. I will probably have to keep these to a single, possibly a double liter. But I'm going to go ahead and try these in the spec bed. They're so much taller. They'll be a whole lot better than the shorter ones. I do have 2 of the shorter ones behind it, and then I have 2 that I don't have the obelisk trellises for. So I'm going to use bamboo stake for those at this point. We do have a variety of different tomatoes, and again, I mixed all of mine up. I have my paste sauce tomatoes, my slicing tomatoes, and my cherry tomatoes all mixed up, just in case one bed gets taken out by some disease or something. I don't lose all of any one particular kind. So I did interplant them. But we have Kellogg's Breakfast, San Marzano, Mr. Stripey. There's a Hillbilly back here. Pink Oxheart, which is one of our favorites. Multiple people have said it's like the best tomato they've ever had. So Pink Oxheart, Sun Gold, cherry tomato. So just a variety. So I just recently added this trellis, and on each side of it, I have a 20-gallon grow bag. And within that bag, I have a Concord grape plant on one side and a red grape on the other side. Since those bags are so big, I had a lot of those extra flowers. I did add some other flowers to share the bag with it. So it'll be pretty. So let's finish up around the garden, raised beds, and then we're going to look at the containers inside the garden. In this bed, we have carrots, spinach, which is my nemesis, some red sales lettuce, a green leaf lettuce, and then also radishes that are bolting. I have not ever grown spinach successfully. My idea for this year is just to let it go to seed, hopefully self-seed itself, and come back on its own time frame. And if it does that, maybe it will do well, because I have never successfully grown spinach. Over on this side of the bed, we have carrots, which I've heard horror stories about carrot germination, and literally all I did was sprinkle the seed out, cover it with mulch, water it for every day for 2 weeks or so, and it's just doing beautifully. The same happened with the ones I planted last fall as well. The lettuce so far is hanging in there and doing well, but the radishes have bolted. I decided to let them go to seed. Aren't those just beautiful? It's very wispy, very fairy-like. Just love it. So those are gorgeous. So in this bed we have red acre cabbage and golden acre cabbage. We may have some that are just about ready, of the golden acre, that are just about ready to be picked. And in this bed over here, we have kohlrabi that is definitely ready to be picked, and some early Jersey Wakefield cabbage ready to be picked, and maybe another golden acre cabbage. I did have to take the netting off. I had tulle fabric, which is still over on top of that one, to try to keep the bugs out. It does have some insect damage, but not very much. Not as much as the other Brassicas do. I did have to take the netting off of this one because the kohlrabi got so tall, it was suffering from it. So we're going to harvest that here later today. So in this bed, we have a variety. There are red top rutabaga, or purple top rutabaga, various different kinds of broccolis and other brassicas in here. It has had a fair bit of bug damage. I have spread diatomaceous earth, slug and snail bait, and also BT. So hopefully we've got that on track. The broccoli and Romanesco broccoli, there's purple sprouting broccoli, there's several different kinds. None of those have started to create fruit yet. And in our final bed, we have our hot peppers and some more okra. The okra is along the back and on the side. And these are doing great. We have tons of flowers and fruit set already. As I said with the sweet peppers, my peppers were not this advanced last year. So I'm very happy with what we have. We have Muslato, Aslano, we have Jade jalapeno, we have ancho chili, which has quite a bit of fruit on it already. We have a Santa Fe Grande snacking pepper, which has fruit on it. Just a whole bunch of different peppers. So they're doing really, really well. I will be tying these up later today so that they are connected to the stake. So the last part of this garden bed are these onions I transplanted. They had been behind the garlic and they weren't getting enough light, so I moved them over here. So they're getting a lot. They've rooted in beautifully. I don't intend at this point to trim these, so I'm going to use these as a control versus the other ones. So we're going to go ahead and let these just continue growing. Got probably about another month on them and they'll be ready. All right, so we have a bunch of boxes. I am working on getting the flower beds cleaned up. So I made a lot of progress on this one, and I'm at the point of adding cardboard above the soil, and then I'm going to put mulch above that. I've done that already with this bed over here, and it is just looking amazing. So let me share with you the flowers that I have in pots around the garden. So we have a butterfly bush I got from Lowe's for 50% off. We have some Rebecca marmalade. Next to that we have hyssop. And we have, I think it's either a Rebecca or a Gaillardia. Then we have cherry brandy Rebecca in a smaller pot. Behind it we have more zinnias. And then we have 3 different types of dill to the left of that. We have Ducat dill, bouquet dill, and mammoth Long Island dill. Next to that, we have Burning Heart Heliopsis, which is a false sunflower. And there's a petunia that snuck in there, so we're going to leave that there for the moment. Behind that, we have fennel, and behind that, we have a pot of lemon mint. And then we have a violet aster and Linaria fairy tale. That is from Botanical Interest. And it's already really pretty. You will notice throughout the garden that I have a lot of dahlias and grow bags. Some of those I started from seeds. Some of them I did buy tubers offline. But they're smaller ones are ones probably I grew from seeds. We also have nasturtium over here. We do have more zinnias. And behind there is hiding a little cucumber, which not looking too bad. Like I said, with the cucurbits, I had just a terrible time last year, so I am succession planting them every week or two. In this section, the first pot on the right is Philanthus. The next to that is the bunny-tailed grass, which is so soft. Behind that are 2 pots of Liatra Blazing Star. It has a really long purple flower, according to the picture. I've not grown it before. I was free add-in for a dahlia order from Longfield Gardens. So really excited to see what that looks like. Should be a really good one for pollinators, butterflies, hummingbirds, and a lot of the bees. In this section, we have a hodgepodge of stuff. So in the very back, we have some dahlias. In front of that, we have the very sad eggplant that is in a pot that had very sad anemones in it. In front of that, we have greater quaking grass. And this pot and this pot are an example of have some patience, because I had planted caladium in both of these. It had not come up, so it's like fine. I put in some Salvia Violet Queen, and now I have caladium popping up in both of them. So have some patience, eventually it will come up. In these 2 pots, we have Strawberry Gomphrena, which is starting to really take. Once it does that, it gets huge and just gorgeous. Behind that, we have, I think, maybe some dahlias that had gotten chewed up pretty bad, but they are starting to show some new growth. We have mushrooms that you can clear out of that. In here, we have one of the few pots of Lysianthus I have. I got 3 different kinds from Johnny Seeds. So I started about 150 starts. I ended up planting out actually 15 flowers, and this spot, one of those is dead. So I'm not sure if I'm going to try that again next year or not, but hopefully they'll be pretty. The other 3 pots are doing better than those, than even this one. So We should have some flowers. Over here we have some nasturtium in that pot. And then we have a sparkle white Gara. Sun is coming up finally, but it's gonna get bright. So I had started so many seeds, flower seeds. It's like, I want that, I want that, I want that. Next year I'm gonna pare it back. I have to keep it to maybe 10 different kinds because I had probably dozens upon dozens upon dozens. It became very difficult to take care of them, and I ended up losing some, and then just finding places to put them was a problem. So next year we're gonna go more minimal. I just wanted to do the maximum, but it becomes a problem after a while. So next year, fewer flowers, but maybe fewer types of flowers, but I'll plant more of each one. Just a note for garden planning for 2025. So in the center of the garden, we have all of our Determinate tomatoes in here. We have our potatoes, experiments, some sunflowers, sweet peas, sweet snap peas. Over here we have some kale from last year. We have some more dahlias. We have a variety of different snapdragons here. We have sunflowers in this large pot. The front bag has canna. And then we have some zucchini squash, some 2 bags of tomatillos. The large tomatillos actually had flowers on it for quite a while, but it needs 2 different plants to set fruit. So my other 2 tomatillos are finally blossoming. So hopefully we'll get some tomatillos here soon. Over here on that far left side, we have 2 rows of our March 20th potatoes. There's Yukon Gold on the left, Red Norland on the middle. And then the next row we have our April 20th planting, which is russet. And then over here, the 2 smallest bags are our mega chip that we planted May 20th. I will be trying to do a June 20th planting with some more russets. But like I said, the March 20th potatoes over there are pretty far gone, so they'll be ready to harvest here very soon. So another pot of sunflowers. So one of them has Sunspot, which is a dwarf, and the other one has a teddy bear, which is also a dwarf. So they should get between 3 and 4 feet tall. We have a very sad looking eggplant. I'm hoping that it will come back, but it has been chewed up like crazy. At this point, I'm going to leave it as it is. Maybe the bugs will continue to chew on that versus something else. We have some Lysianthus in the back. We have Mariachi White and Arena 3 Apricot. All right, so we're having camera overheating issues, so we're going to finish this up real quick. Get the camera out of the sun. It is pretty warm already. What we have over on that side is more zinnias and dahlias behind the tomatoes, and then we have all of our Determinate tomatoes. And among those, we have the Black Sea, Crimson Sprinter, Yorker, Roma, and Best Boy. And then there's some repeats within those. So this is the Mountain Princess. It has already set fruit. It has several really good sized fruit on it. So we are just rocking and going to town with these. The final bit that we have over here is that we have some more zinnia, nasturtium, and then we have chocolate mint and peppermint mint. Now I'm going to have to be careful with the mint because it is trying to escape the bag already. So I'm going to have to be sure to get that trimmed up so it doesn't get into the ground. Because once mint is in your ground, it is invasive and it just keeps going. So that is the main part of the garden. In a later video, I'll go over all of the fruit trees and bushes. And the far side of the garden where I'm putting in the winter squash melons. I'll also share with you the flower beds. They're still in progress. This one here, show you real quick. This one here is looking gorgeous, but I do have more work to do. If you would like to know more about how I got my peppers and tomatoes off to such a good start, be sure to check out this video. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And I thank you for joining me. And I hope you have a very wonderful day. And bye.